ladies and gentlemen, there are people walking into your life not to bless you, not to build you, but to break you. And if you don't learn how to discern who they are, you'll spend years repairing what one season of blindness broke. You're not just choosing friends, you're choosing your future. You're not just choosing relationships, you're choosing your rise or your fall. So let me tell you plainly, as one who has seen both the storm and the sunrise, there are 7 kinds of people who will destroy your life if you don't get wise, get strong, and get free. These are the ones who can't see the vision, so they try to blind you from yours. They'll whisper, be realistic, but what they really mean is stay small. Don't let their fear frame your future. They drain your energy, your time, your money, your spirit. They take and take and take and never pour back. You were not created to be a well for someone else's thirst while you die of dehydration. If they talk to you about others, they will talk about you to others. Trust me, nothing that grows in the soil of gossip produces fruit. Protect your name, protect your peace. They clap with a cringe. They smile, but their soul is tight with envy. They don't want your life. They just don't want you to have it either, and they will sabotage you in silence. Oh, they'll twist your kindness into obedience. They'll guilt you into slavery, then blame you when you break. These are not leaders. They are puppeteers. Cut the strings. They're with you when the music is loud and the lights are bright, but disappear when the storms roll in. You don't need people who party with you. You need people who pray with you. They need to run every move, approve every dream, and own every piece of your soul. If someone can't love you without owning you, they don't love you. They fear losing power. Let me tell you something that could save your purpose, your peace, and even your soul. Discernment is not optional. It's essential. You can't afford to go through life just accepting whoever walks into your world, trusting every smile, or believing every word that sounds sweet to your ears. Because not everyone who shows up is a blessing. Some are a test, some are a trap, and some are a termination notice wearing a friendly face. You need discernment. Not just knowledge, not just charisma, not just good intentions. You need the divine insight to see beyond the surface. Discernment is that quiet voice in your spirit that says, this looks good, but it's not God. It's that spiritual alarm system that sounds when something feels off, even when nothing is technically wrong. See, you can't judge people by how they make you feel in the moment. Manipulators can make you feel seen. Users can make you feel needed. Jezebels can make you feel chosen. And snakes can lie so well, you'll think they're healing you while they're actually biting you. This is why discernment is essential, because charm can confuse you, emotion can blind you, and time can waste you. But discernment will protect you. Now hear me, discernment doesn't always yell. It doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a subtle unease in your spirit, that little check in your gut, that hesitation when your mind wants to say yes, but your soul leans back and says, wait, because every destroyed destiny didn't start with a disaster, it started with a decision. One wrong person in the right seat in your life can drive you straight off a cliff. That's why discernment is not just about avoiding pain. It's about protecting purpose. It's about saying, I won't let temporary company corrupt eternal calling. You need discernment when you're choosing friends, because some folks only come close to study your weaknesses, not to celebrate your strengths. Some people come not to build you, but to blend in, copy your oil, and compete with your anointing. You need discernment in relationships, because attraction doesn't equal alignment. Just because they light your fire doesn't mean they'll carry your cross. You don't need someone who completes your fantasy. You need someone who can stand with you in faith through fire, famine, and failure. You need discernment in partnerships because every opportunity isn't sent from heaven. The enemy knows how to package poison in pretty paper. You need to ask yourself, is this purpose or is this distraction? Is this God's direction, or is it just my desire wearing a mask? And hear me, discernment will sometimes offend your feelings. It'll make you walk away from people you like. It'll have you say no when everything in your flesh says yes. It'll make you let go of hands that feel good but lead nowhere. And it'll make you sit in silence when everybody else is celebrating the counterfeit. Let me tell you, this people will call you cold when you stop entertaining what confuses your peace. They'll say you're distant when you stop explaining what God already confirmed in your spirit. But that's okay, because discernment will cost you comfort, but it will give you clarity, and clarity is priceless when your future's on the line. I see your lips, but I'm watching your patterns. I hear your words, but I'm reading your fruit. You're saying the right things, but your spirit don't match, because people can rehearse words, but they can't fake presence. They can post inspiration, but they can't live integrity, and they can act supportive. But discernment will show you who's clapping from the shadows of envy. You need discernment when you're tired, when you're vulnerable, when you're in a season of rebuilding. Because the enemy doesn't just attack when you're weak. He attacks when you're hungry, when you're lonely, when you're grieving, and when you're about to step into your next level. That's when wolves put on sheep's clothing. That's when betrayals come with kisses. That's when the enemy shows up with a deal, a distraction, or a detour, trying to derail your divine timing. And here this discernment is developed in the presence of God. It's not about suspicion, it's about sensitivity. It's not a spiritual gift for the elite. It's a survival skill for the chosen. You sharpen discernment by sitting still in silence, by knowing his voice so well that anything off, he rings loud. By getting so in tune with his word, his will, and his way, that when something counterfeit tries to creep in, your spirit rejects it like a bad organ. So, my friend, as you walk into your next season, don't just pray for open doors. Pray for the eyes to see which door leads to destiny and which one leads to destruction. Ask for wisdom, ask for sight, ask for peace that surpasses performance, because you can't afford to be fooled again. Not this time, not with what's on the line. Discernment will keep you when desire tries to distract you. It will hold you steady when flattery tries to feed your ego. It will guard your calling when charm tries to creep in the back door. It may make you look strange, it may make you walk alone, but that's the price of elevation, because everyone can't go and everyone shouldn't. These aren't monsters that live under your bed. They're not strangers lurking in the shadows. No, they're closer than that. They sit next to you. They eat at your table. They smile in your face while silently stabbing the lungs of your purpose. And if you don't learn how to recognize them, you'll start questioning your dream. Not because it's wrong, but because you let the wrong voice speak over it. See, everyone celebrates dreams in theory, but when it comes time to walk them out, that's when the dream killers show up. That's when the critics crawl out of the woodwork. That's when the voices start saying, "Let me stop right there, be realistic," is often the favorite phrase of a person who gave up on their own dream. It's a smokescreen, a subtle shade thrown over your purpose, so they don't have to feel bad about not chasing theirs. Dream killers don't always come with fangs and fury. Some come softly, calmly, with concerned eyes and measured tones. They'll say, "I'm just trying to help," while planting seeds of fear and doubt in your soil. And if you're not careful, you'll start watering those weeds until they choke out what God tried to grow in you. You have to understand, not everyone is equipped to see what you see. That doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make them evil, but it does mean that you need to protect your dream like it's fragile glass in a room full of clumsy people. At the beginning, your dream is fragile. It's still forming. It's not strong enough yet to stand on its own. It needs space. It needs silence. It needs nurturing and light. It doesn't need everybody's opinion. It doesn't need 10 different voices poking holes in something they don't even understand. The danger with dream killers is that they don't have to break your dream to destroy it. All they have to do is make you stop believing in it. If they can kill your faith, your fire, your fight, then they've already won. And too many people walk away from greatness because they trusted someone who didn't have the capacity to dream with them. They laid their calling on the altar of someone else's comfort. They settled for small because someone else was scared of the cost of becoming large. Let me say this with all the love in my heart: your dream doesn't need their permission. Your calling doesn't require their approval. If the dream was planted in you, then it was meant for you. They don't have to get it. They don't have to like it. They don't even have to believe it, but you do. Because your dream is the doorway to your destiny. It's not just about success. It's about fulfillment. It's about alignment. It's about waking up in the morning and knowing that what you're building matters. They'll remind you of every failure. They'll bring up your past. They'll compare you to others. They'll say it's too late or too early. They'll convince you that the risk isn't worth it, and here's the truth. They don't do this because they hate you. They do it because your dream exposes the part of them that gave up. You make them uncomfortable because your fire reminds them of the ashes they've tried to forget. Your forward motion makes their stagnancy too loud to ignore. You've got something powerful inside of you, a dream that was planted in your spirit before you were born. And yes, it's going to take pain and patience and prayer, but don't let people with shallow sight talk you out of a vision that was given to you in high definition. Some people are only comfortable with what they can control, and your dream, it's too wild, too untamed, too big for them to hold, so they'll try to shrink it to fit their world. They'll put it in a box. They'll wrap it in fear. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that box is your ceiling. You were made for more. You were made to break boxes, not live in them. You were created to rise, to reach, to run wild with purpose. And yes, you're going to have to let some people go to get there, because some voices can't walk with you where your dream is taking you. Some relationships are rooted in your past, not your purpose. Some people only knew you before your dream was born, and they're intimidated by the new you, the growing you, the rising you. That's why you've got to surround yourself with people who breathe life into your vision. People who hear your dream and say, let's build. People who see your passion and say, let's go. People who remind you, you were born for this. Don't shrink. So guard your vision, feed it daily, water it with faith, and above all, protect it from people who can't see past their own fear. Your dream is not foolish, it's not fake, and it's not fantasy. It's the blueprint of your future, and it deserves to live. They don't show up with bricks and vision. They show up with holes and hunger, and if you're not wise enough to see them for who they are, you'll mistake their need for love and their wait for worth. Oh yes, they look like friends. They sound like supporters. They come wrapped in charm, neediness, and just enough vulnerability to slip past your discernment. But deep down, they're not there for your good. They're there for what's good to them. Your time, your energy, your gifts, your open heart, your wide arms, your giving spirit. And the dangerous thing about leeches is this: they don't always look toxic. Sometimes they're sweet, sometimes they're hurting, sometimes they come with stories that pull on your empathy. And if you're not careful, your compassion will become their playground, and your kindness will be the very knife they use to drain you dry. You are not a rehab center for people committed to staying sick. You are not a bottomless well for people who refuse to grow. You are not a 24-hour emergency room for someone who doesn't take responsibility for their own healing. And if you let them, they will sit on your shoulders, talk about your weight, then blame you when you collapse under the pressure of carrying their baggage and yours too. Leeches don't invest, they expect. They don't pour in, they pull. They don't give, they grasp. They never ask how you're doing. They never stop to refill what they emptied. And if you dare to pull back, set a boundary, or finally say enough, they will play the victim so well you'll question whether you were the problem all along. But a leech will go silent the moment you're not useful. A leech will disappear when you need them. A leech will have every expectation of your availability, but none of the accountability for their own. And the longer you let them suck the life out of you, the harder it becomes to remember what it felt like to be whole. You'll wake up exhausted and not know why. You'll feel drained, overwhelmed, foggy, frustrated, and not realize that what you're battling isn't just stress, it's someone's access to you. You can't keep setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm, especially when they never ask if you're burning. There's a boundary that must be drawn, not because you hate them, but because you finally decided to love yourself. You'll breathe again, you'll sleep again, you'll think clearly, you'll feel lighter, you'll start dreaming again, because the heaviness wasn't just life. It was who you were carrying, so don't you feel guilty, don't you apologize for growing, don't you backtrack into bondage just because someone misses the benefits of your broken boundaries, and watch what happens when you stop feeding what was draining you. Watch how fast you recover, watch how strong you become. Watch how clear life gets when your energy is no longer under siege. There's a kind of spirit that slithers through circles, wears a friendly face and speaks in whispers. It shows up not to build, not to uplift, not to bring clarity, but to contaminate. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, you'll invite it into your life thinking it's harmless when it's actually hellbent on distraction and division. Not just people who talk, but people who live to spread chaos, people who make conversations their playgrounds and secrets their weapons, people who trade integrity for attention and truth for twisted storytelling. They don't call to check in, they call to check on somebody else. They're not looking for growth, they're looking for dirt. They speak like they care, but their words carry a poison that slowly erodes trust, relationships, and reputation. Gossip is a form of character assassination. It is murder with words, and gossipers, they're not just talkers, they're takers. They take your peace, your privacy, your progress. They infect your atmosphere with suspicion and sabotage and call it just sharing. But the word is clear, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and some people use their tongues like swords, slicing people open for sport, cutting down what others are building, undermining what others are becoming, and all while smiling in your face. And if you're not careful, they'll make you part of the problem too. You'll sit in their presence, listening, laughing, nodding, and not even realize you're being spiritually contaminated. Because gossip doesn't just leave the mouth of the speaker, it lingers in the ears of the listener. They will come to you with news about someone else, and don't be surprised. When you're not in the room, you're the next headline, because gossip doesn't love people. It loves the sound of people falling. Gossip doesn't seek truth, it seeks drama. When someone is always in the middle of drama, always has a story to tell, always seems to know what's wrong with everybody else, that's not information, that's infection, because people who are truly healed don't speak to hurt. People who are whole don't need the wounds of others to feel powerful. People walking in purpose don't have time to monitor what everyone else is doing. They're too busy building. Gossipers, though, they thrive in idleness, they thrive in insecurity, they thrive in misery, and their favorite hobby is pulling other people into their swirl of speculation, manipulation, and mental fog. He uses narratives, half-truths, misunderstood moments. He'll use one seed of rumor to divide a community, destroy a friendship, or make you doubt someone who's never given you a reason to. And some of you are living in spiritual fatigue not because of what you did, but because of what you heard. You've been poisoned with gossip disguised as concern, and now you're confused, distracted, anxious, not realizing it wasn't your battle to begin with. Let me say this as clear as I can. It is not your job to carry stories you weren't meant to hear. It is not your calling to rehearse someone else's fall. It is not your assignment to spread what you don't fully know, because what you entertain reveals what you value. If your ears are always open to mess, don't be surprised when your life starts feeling messy. If you let gossipers pour into you, don't be shocked when clarity starts leaking out of you. There's a reason why the wisest people talk about ideas, about vision, about purpose, while the unwise can't stop talking about people. You can say, I don't want to hear that. You can say, have you talked to them directly? You can say, let's pray for them instead. You can choose silence. You can walk away. You can change the atmosphere. You will not steal my focus. You will not confuse my calling. You will not stain my spirit with words that were never meant to be spoken. I'm done letting whispers carry more weight than wisdom. I'm done letting rumors reign where truth should reside. I'm done making room for destruction in the disguise of conversation. I choose silence over slander. I choose purpose over pettiness. I choose wisdom over whispers, because some of the loudest voices in your crowd are secretly praying you fall. They'll smile in your face. They'll show up for your wins. They'll say, "I'm so proud of you," with their mouths, but their heart is whispering, "Why not me? Why them? What makes them so special?" That's the quiet danger of jealous people. They dress up in the costume of support, but underneath, they're rooting for your failure. Jealousy is a silent killer. It doesn't always come loud. It doesn't always come aggressive. Sometimes it hides behind fake applause. It hides behind shady compliments. It hides in the subtle change in tone when your name comes up. Sometimes it even hides in people who were once close to you, until your light started to shine a little brighter than theirs. You were supposed to stay small. You were supposed to stay stuck. You were supposed to stay needing them, because as long as you were beneath them, they felt secure. But when you started healing, when you started winning, when you started walking in your calling, that's when their real feelings surfaced. They think they deserve what you worked for. They see the fruit, but they didn't witness the planting. They see the blessing, but they don't know the broken nights. They see the spotlight, but not the shadows you had to crawl through just to survive. And the most dangerous ones, they don't oppose you openly. No, they're too slick for that. They'll stay close. They'll linger in your life just enough to monitor your moves, gather your progress, and feed their bitterness. They'll pretend to be for you, but their spirit can't celebrate you, because they secretly believe your rise came at their expense. Your shine revealed their shadows, your win exposed where they haven't grown, your peace highlights their unrest, and instead of doing the work, they'd rather resent the one who did. Some people are just waiting for the first sign of your failure so they can finally breathe again, because your success has been suffocating their ego, and it's painful when it comes from people you love, people you poured into, people you would have never believed had your name in their mouth the way they do when you're not around. But hear me, God is not the author of confusion, and He didn't elevate you to be bound by the opinions of broken people who never wanted to see you free. You didn't ask to be gifted. You didn't ask to be anointed. You didn't ask to be chosen, but the call came anyway, and you had the courage to answer it. You learned to recognize the signs, because jealous people leak. Their tone slips, their support feels forced, their questions hit different. They ask, "How'd you get that?" Instead of, "How can I support that?" and "Let me tell you something." It's not your job to dim your light to make them comfortable. It's not your responsibility to stay small to keep their pride intact. If your growth makes them uncomfortable, let them sit in that discomfort, because shrinking won't save them, and it'll only strangle you. And yes, your rising will expose some things. It will disrupt some dynamics. It will shift relationships, and it may even cost you people you thought would be with you forever. So stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Stop proving yourself to people who never wanted to believe in you in the first place, and stop keeping jealous people close out of guilt. Let them go. He knows what you don't. He heard the conversations you weren't in. He saw the jealousy hidden in the handshake, and he's not going to let you take that energy into the next level. Not everybody can go with you. Not everybody wants to see you win. Not everybody is clapping from a pure place, and the longer you ignore it, the more weight you carry that was never meant to be yours. This next level requires discernment. You can't just look at faces. You've got to listen to spirits. You've got to pay attention to fruit. You've got to stop letting loyalty to history blind you from the truth in your present. So cut the cord, mourn if you have to, but move forward. Celebrate with those who really love you. Grow with those who genuinely support you, and surround yourself with people who don't flinch when you rise. They don't show up with chains and commands. No, they're too slick for that. They don't dominate with volume or violence. They use emotions as their leverage, guilt as their currency, kindness as their camouflage. You've met them, maybe you've lived with them, maybe you've trusted them, maybe you've opened your whole heart to them, only to realize too late that the very person you leaned on was pushing you, guiding you, bending you, but not in love, in control, and they'll do it with a smile on their face and soft words in their mouth, all while weaving invisible strings around your soul, pulling you in directions you were never meant to go. They do something nice, generous, unexpected. You feel grateful, you feel seen, and that's the hook. Because once they've done something for you, it becomes the anchor they use to keep you compliant. Every favor becomes a future invoice. Every act of kindness becomes a receipt they pull out when you try to walk away or say no. And here's the part that messes people up. It's so easy to confuse it with care, because manipulators study you. They learn your patterns, your triggers, your fears, your soft spots. They know you don't like conflict. They know you've been through trauma. They know you crave peace, so they use your very desire to be good, kind, and loyal against you. You start shrinking, adjusting, compromising, not for unity, but for control. You don't even realize you're under. It doesn't just mess with your mind, it messes with your spirit. It disconnects you from your discernment. It blurs the lines between truth and obligation. It makes you question your instincts, doubt your strength, and stay in cycles that God has been trying to free you from. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. But manipulators can't stand a clear boundary. Your no to them sounds like rebellion. It sounds like betrayal, because to a manipulative person, your autonomy is a threat to their agenda. That's why you leave every disagreement feeling like you're the problem, even when you're not. They're not after resolution. They're after compliance, and the moment you stop complying, they stop being kind. Now suddenly they're cold, passive-aggressive, distant, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Guilt for growing, guilt for setting boundaries, guilt for wanting space, guilt for wanting more. You do not have to stay under the weight of obligation when the Spirit of God is calling you to liberation. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can love without being manipulated. You can serve without losing your soul. And finally, you trust that if walking in truth costs you certain people, they were never for you to begin with. If someone can only love you when you're bending to their will, that's not love, it's control. And God did not call you to a life of quiet captivity. He called you to truth, to freedom, to boldness, to clarity. You don't have to be harsh to be free. You don't have to fight to be firm. You just have to stop allowing guilt and false kindness to rule your life. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a spoken word script, a sermon-style video, monologue, or a series of punchy short-form posts for social. I'm here for whatever creative direction you want to take it, because good time companions are plenty when you're up. When you've got money to spend, laughs to share, trips to take, and no real burdens weighing you down, it seems like everybody wants to ride with you. Your phone stays lit, your inbox is full, your presence draws a crowd. You start thinking, I've got people, I've got support, I've got community, because good time companions aren't built for depth. They're not built for sacrifice. They're not built for dark valleys. They're not built to sit in your silence and stay even when your light dims. They're built for the moment, not the mission, and it hurts. Oh, it hurts. It hurts when you realize that some of the people you called family were only seasonal. Some of the people you gave everything to were never giving back. Some of the people you showed up for won't even answer your call when you're in crisis. Purpose has a cost, and part of that cost is releasing relationships that were built on shallow ground. Real friends don't disappear when you're no longer the life of the party, because they didn't come for the party, they came for you. And if you've got even one person like that, treasure them. If you've got even one soul who will sit with you in your sorrow, cry with you in your brokenness, pray with you in your silence, and walk with you through your mess, you're rich, because those people are rare, and they often don't make the most noise. They don't flatter you. They don't need the spotlight, but they show up, and when life gets real, they get closer, not quieter. This is the season where God is refining your circle, pruning your connections, cutting off the excess, and making space for real alignment. You don't need a crowd. You need covering. You don't need an entourage. You need intercessors. You don't need noise. You need nurture. You need people who aren't intimidated by your truth. You need people who don't flinch at your flaws. You need people who can handle your process, not just your performance. So yes, mourn the ones who left. It's okay to feel the sting of absence. It's okay to grieve the loss of connection. But don't get stuck there. So the next time life hits and the crowd thins and your phone stops ringing, don't panic, don't shrink, don't question your worth. The party is over. The real ones remain, and now you can move forward with clarity, with strength, and with a circle that can hold your future. Let me know if you want this turned into a video monologue, captioned social posts, or something else creative. We can make this message hit wherever you want to take it. Control wears many faces, but the most dangerous of them all is the one that smiles, the one that calls itself love, the one that says, "I'm just looking out for you," while quietly tightening the leash around your life. Controllers don't always shout. They don't always slam doors. They don't always raise fists or voices. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they offer advice you never asked for. Sometimes they wrap their expectations in affection and call it care. And if you're not paying attention, if your spirit isn't anchored in truth, you might start to believe them. You might think their possessiveness is protection. You might interpret their restrictions as responsibility. You might confuse their need to control you with a desire to love you. Love creates space. Control builds cages. Love empowers. Control manipulates. Love liberates. Control suffocates. And yet, so many of us have learned to equate being controlled with being loved, because someone in our past taught us that love had strings attached, that to be cared for meant being constantly corrected, constantly monitored, constantly molded into what they wanted us to be. See, the controller doesn't love you. They love their version of you, the one they can monitor, the one they can manage, the one that moves according to their rules. And when you stop fitting into that box, when you start to grow, when you start to pull back the layers and find your own voice, suddenly their tone shifts. You were never created to live under the thumb of another human being who uses affection like currency and control like commitment. That's not love. That's bondage with a pretty bow. And sometimes the hardest part isn't even the controller. It's the confusion they cause inside of you. You start asking, am I wrong for wanting more space? Am I ungrateful for wanting my own voice? Am I selfish for wanting boundaries? Controllers will often gaslight your growth. They'll turn your evolution into a threat because they don't want partnership. They want possession. And as long as they can manipulate you with guilt, with duty, with the illusion of loyalty, they don't have to deal with their own fear of losing control. So if you have to keep shrinking to be loved, it's not love. If you can't say no without punishment, it's not love. If you feel like you're walking on eggshells in the name of peace, it's not love. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself because someone is always fixing you, that is not love. So if you're walking through a season of shedding relationships that once felt loving but now feel suffocating, don't fear it. That's not loss, it's clarity. That's not abandonment, it's alignment into someone who finally knows the difference between control and care, between manipulation and mentorship, between affection and authority. You will walk away from the counterfeit and into the kind of love that does not clip your wings, but helps you fly. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you've outgrown them. Let them say you've pulled away. As long as you know that you are walking toward truth, walking toward God's design, walking toward real love. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that covers. You are right where you're supposed to be.